Hollywood told you cowboys were gunslinging heroes who rode into town to save the day. The truth? Most cowboys never even fired their guns in combat. While silver screen cowboys dash heroically across pristine landscapes, real cowboys spent their days covered in dust, working 18-hour shifts for pitiful wages. The real cowboy endured lice-infested bedrolls, repetitive meals, and faced constant dangers from stampedes to dehydration miles from medical help. One cowboy's letter home revealed the stark reality. If I'd known what this life was really like, I'd have stayed and worked in Father's store. By the end of this video, you'll understand the harsh reality behind the myth. When most Americans picture a cowboy, they imagine a rugged, white frontiersman in a Stetson hat. But dig beneath this familiar image, and you'll discover a story that begins not in Texas or Wyoming, but in the Spanish countryside, centuries before the first English-speaking cowhand ever lassoed a steer. The very word cowboy reveals this hidden heritage. It's a direct translation of vaquero, from vaca, meaning cow, a Spanish term for mounted cattle herders that predates the American cowboy by hundreds of years. This linguistic connection represents the true foundation of America's most iconic profession. Spanish conquistadors introduced both cattle and horses to the Americas in the 16th century, bringing them first to Mexico and Florida. These animals had been absent from North America since the prehistoric Ice Age, fundamentally transforming the landscape and creating the conditions for cattle ranching to develop. The earliest horses were Andalusian, Barb, and Arabian breeds, which over generations evolved into uniquely American varieties like the Mustang, animals perfectly adapted to the harsh frontier conditions. In northern Mexico, vaqueros refined Spanish ranching traditions, developing specialized techniques for managing cattle across vast territories. While ranch owners, hacendados, were typically of Spanish descent, many early vaqueros were Native Americans trained at Spanish missions to care for growing herds. Francisco Estrada, a renowned vaquero from Sonora, became legendary for his ability to rope wild cattle in terrain deemed impossible by others, exemplifying skills that would later define the American cowboy. This multicultural exchange accelerated when New England merchants encountered hacendados and vaqueros in California, and American traders followed the Santa Fe Trail. These interactions spread vaquero techniques northward as cattle ranching expanded. From this cultural melting pot emerged a remarkably diverse profession. Black cowboys constituted approximately 25% of the workforce after the Civil War. These men, many former slaves, brought critical skills to the profession, yet their contributions have been systematically erased from popular depictions of the Wild West. Regional variations developed across the frontier. Texas cowboys worked closest to Mexico, absorbing vaquero traditions while maintaining elements of Eastern American and British practices. California buckaroos, a pronunciation of vaquero, maintained stronger Spanish influences. Florida developed its distinct cracker cowboy tradition, using bullwhips and dogs to herd cattle through swampy terrain. The Hawaiian paniolo tells another fascinating chapter. These Hawaiian cowboys descended directly from Mexican vaqueros who traveled across the Pacific to teach islanders cattle handling skills. The word paniolo itself is a Hawaiian pronunciation of Español, acknowledging these Spanish roots. Hawaiian ranching families still carry the surnames of vaqueros who established ranching dynasties that continue today. The specialized equipment American cowboys relied upon, from broad-brimmed hats to high-heeled boots, leather chaps, and distinctive saddles, all evolved from vaquero designs optimized through generations of practical use. Even the iconic lasso techniques were perfected by Mexican vaqueros long before American adoption. The American cowboy emerged from a rich confluence of Spanish, Mexican, African, Native American, and Anglo-American influences, each adapted to meet regional challenges from desert plateaus to mountain valleys, coastal plains to island ranges. Behind the diverse heritage of America's cowboys lay a daily existence that broke bodies with ruthless efficiency. The romanticized image of men gathered around campfires telling tales masks the brutal reality these frontier workers faced. An existence so harsh that many abandoned the profession after a single season, their bodies battered and spirits crushed by relentless demands. Dawn arrived without mercy on the frontier. Cowboys were already saddling horses while most Americans slumbered, preparing for another grueling day that would stretch from pre-dawn until well after darkness fell. Sleep became a rare treasure, with men managing barely 6 hours of fragmented rest, interrupted by guard duties and nighttime emergencies with the herd. The stillness of night offered little true respite, only brief moments between responsibilities. The physical deterioration began almost immediately. After weeks on the trail, a cowboy's hands cracked and bled from rope burns, the raw skin stinging with every grasp of leather reins. Their backs ached from endless hours in the saddle, vertebrae grinding audibly with each movement. Under the merciless sun, young skin weathered rapidly, faces etching with premature lines that aged them decades beyond their years. The constant creak of saddle leather, accompanied by the soft groan of overworked muscles, created the soundtrack of their existence. When hunger struck, cowboys found their meager rations offering little comfort. Their frontier diet, a monotonous rotation of beans, bacon, biscuits, and coffee, provided necessary calories but scant nutrition. The bland, repetitive fare led to digestive ailments, with scurvy and chronic stomach problems plaguing bodies already pushed to breaking point. Mealtime itself offered no escape from harsh conditions, with men often eating amid driving rain or blinding dust storms, the grit of sand mixing with every hurried mouthful. Personal care deteriorated rapidly in these conditions. A cowboy's bed consisted of a simple bedroll laid directly on the hard ground, quickly becoming host to lice, fleas, and bedbugs that flourished in the warm folds of blankets. These parasites left angry welts across tired bodies, the constant itching making true rest impossible. With water saved primarily for drinking and cooking, bathing became an unattainable luxury. Men wore the same clothing for weeks or months, garments growing stiff with accumulated dirt and bodily fluids. The pungent smell of unwashed bodies and festering minor wounds created a miasma that followed the herd as surely as dust clouds. Most dangerous was the absence of medical care. Injuries that modern Americans consider minor often became life-threatening or permanently disabling. A simple cut could develop into a deadly infection, its edges reddening and weeping before the telltale streaks of blood poisoning appeared. Broken bones healed improperly without treatment, leaving men permanently crippled. The nearest doctor might be hundreds of miles away, and frontier medicine offered limited remedies at best. These brutal conditions created an existence so challenging that the profession saw extraordinary turnover. Far from being career adventurers riding the range for decades, many cowboys escaped to less punishing work after experiencing just one season, their bodies bearing permanent reminders of their brief frontier existence. Beyond their romanticized image, cowboy gear represents one of history's most refined collections of survival equipment. What Hollywood depicts as mere costume pieces were actually sophisticated tools, each evolving through decades of life-or-death necessity. The wide-brimmed hat that became the West's enduring symbol wasn't designed for appearance. It was engineered specifically for survival in some of America's most unforgiving terrain. The The cowboy hat served as a personal shield in the wilderness battlefield, its wide brim protecting eyes from blinding sun, deflecting rain, and pushing away branches while riding through dense brush. The tall crown created an insulating air pocket against intense heat and doubled as an emergency water container when needed. John B. Stetson's Boss of the Plains design refined these features into the now iconic form, with brims that could fan campfires or signal to distant riders. This practicality extended to their distinctive boots, whose pointed toes allowed quick insertion into stirrups, critical when mounting in emergencies. The high heels prevented the foot from slipping through the stirrup, avoiding potentially fatal accidents where a rider could be dragged for miles. The high tops formed a protective barrier between vulnerable lower legs and the dangers of snake bites and thorny plants, where medical help was non-existent. Around the cowboy's neck, the humble bandana performed as a multi-function survival tool. This square of cloth filtered choking dust, prevented sunburn, purified gritty water, bound wounds, and served as an improvised potholder. This approach embodied frontier economy, carrying one item that performed 5 functions meant 4 fewer items to transport. Leather chaps completed this protective system, shielding riders from thorny brush and cacti that threatened both clothing and flesh. In freezing temperatures, they provided a crucial windbreak against bitter cold. Whether full length or shorter chinks, they significantly extended the lifespan of trousers constantly exposed to harsh elements. The cornerstone of this survival system was the cowboy's horse, a working partner carefully selected for specific traits. Real cowboy horses were typically compact, under 62 inches tall and less than 1,000 pounds, with sturdy legs and powerful hindquarters. Intelligence and temperament outweighed size. A good cow horse remained calm during chaos and possessed cow sense, the ability to anticipate cattle behavior. This partnership represented mutual dependency that determined survival. Even gloves were survival tools, fashioned from deerskin or other soft but durable leathers to protect hands during constant work with barbed wire and rough vegetation. The rest of his wardrobe followed this principle. Denim or canvas trousers withstood friction. Leather vests protected vital organs while allowing movement, with materials selected for durability above all. A cowboy's expertise extended beyond these physical tools to mastery of rope work, navigation, weather prediction, and animal behavior. A specialized skill set developed through generations of frontier adaptation where every piece of equipment and knowledge directly contributed to survival. The legendary cattle drive was where every cowboy skill faced its ultimate test. When a trail boss pointed north and gave the order to move out, it was men being driven to their limits. The Chisholm Trail stretched nearly 800 miles through terrain that seemed designed by nature to kill both beast and man, with each mile presenting new opportunities for disaster. One wrong move could transform a peaceful herd into an unstoppable force of destruction that left broken bodies in its wake. The journey started long before the first hoof hit the trail. A crew of about a dozen cowhands gathered under an experienced trail boss, each man knowing they might not all return. The math was brutal. Thousands of half-wild longhorns, hundreds of miles of untamed territory, and dangers that claimed lives with ruthless efficiency. A stampede transforms docile cattle into a thundering mass that destroys everything in its path, wrote one trail boss in his journal. Men caught in its way rarely live to describe it. These weren't choreographed events shown in Hollywood productions, but chaotic explosions of animal panic triggered by something as insignificant as a lightning flash or a twig snapping in darkness. When 2,000 longhorns bolted in blind terror, they created a wall of horn and hide that ground everything into the earth. The sound alone like distant thunder growing to an earth-shaking roar, haunted survivors for life. River crossings became graveyards for countless cowboys. Horses stumbled in deep water, throwing riders into currents where the weight of their gear dragged them down. Others were crushed between panicking cattle and steep banks, their final moments spent underwater as tons of bovine flesh pressed the life from their lungs. To prevent catastrophes, cowboys worked rotating shifts, guarding the herd day and night. Their singing served as a crucial safety measure. The constant, soft, human voice kept nervous cattle calm in unfamiliar territory. During lightning storms, when cattle grew most restless, a cowboy might circle the herd for hours, singing continuously despite exhaustion, knowing silence could mean death. The physical toll was beyond modern comprehension. Cowboys spent up to 18 hours daily in the saddle, their bodies breaking down under constant strain. Saddle sores festered into serious infections, while chronic back problems developed that would plague them for life. Exposure to extreme elements, scalding heat, bitter cold, driving rain, aged men beyond their years. A cowboy in his 30s often had the appearance and ailments of a man 20 years older. Sleep deprivation compounded every hardship, with most managing only 6 hours of interrupted rest. This exhaustion, combined with the mental stress of remaining vigilant, created a unique psychological burden. The Chisholm Trail presented additional hazards. Conflicts with farmers and Native American tribes defending their territories could quickly turn violent. Every crossing of tribal lands required negotiation or risk of attack. These shared dangers forged an unspoken brotherhood among cowboys. Men who might have nothing in common, former Confederate soldiers riding alongside freed slaves, Mexican vaqueros teaching techniques to Eastern City boys, found common ground in their daily struggle for survival. Beyond the physical challenges of frontier life emerged something remarkable, an entire cultural system invisible to outsiders. The brotherhood forged through danger manifested in a secret language that could mean the difference between life and death. When a cowboy warned his companions that cattle were on the prod, he was signaling imminent danger that could save lives. This specialized vocabulary became part of a cultural system that defined the true frontier cowboy in ways Hollywood has largely erased from our collective memory. This cowboy language included over 200 specialized terms, allowing precise communication in life-threatening situations. A cowboy describing himself as above snakes communicated he was still alive, essential information in an environment where clarity determined survival. Much of this vocabulary originated from Spanish vaquero traditions, creating a linguistic melting pot reflecting the profession's diversity. The unwritten cowboy code centered on reliability, honesty, and competence, qualities that meant survival when caught in a sudden stampede or dangerous river crossing. A cowboy who failed to communicate clearly or respond appropriately cost lives, not just pride. His worth was measured by performance under pressure without complaint. Physical alertness and horsemanship mattered far more than quick-draw abilities. The code's emphasis on practical skills and mutual respect served as the invisible infrastructure of collective survival. What bound cowboys together was the stark reality that isolation meant death. The rugged individualist celebrated in fiction would have perished quickly. Cowboys worked continuous shifts, watching cattle day and night, preventing stampedes and theft. This vigilance required coordinated teamwork from men with diverse backgrounds, former Confederate soldiers riding alongside freed slaves, Mexican vaqueros teaching techniques to Eastern City boys. When a stampede threatened, these men's lives depended on each other regardless of background or beliefs. Historical records reveal approximately 1 in 3 cowboys was a Mexican vaquero, and around 20% were African American. Native Americans also joined cattle drives, contributing unique skills. During an 1879 Kansas drive, a Mexican vaquero's roping technique saved a white cowboy caught in quicksand, while an African-American cowboy's knowledge of local terrain guided the entire outfit to safety during a sudden storm. This diversity challenges whitewashed portrayals in Western films and demonstrates how competence often transcended prejudice on the frontier. Entertainment served as a crucial emotional release valve amid isolation and danger. Around campfires, cowboys created community through simple but profound rituals, storytelling that preserved collective wisdom, music on harmonicas or fiddles that eased homesickness, and practical jokes that built camaraderie. These weren't mere diversions, but essential psychological survival mechanisms that reinforced bonds between men facing mortality daily. This authentic cowboy culture bears little resemblance to Hollywood's sanitized version. The real cowboy survived through collective effort and shared knowledge rather than individual heroics. Today, cowboy sometimes carries pejorative connotations, reflecting how detached our understanding has become from the profession's genuine nature, one that valued practical solutions over dramatic gestures and community over solitary achievement. The most enduring legacy of the American cowboy isn't found in the dusty trails they rode, but in how we transformed them from ordinary laborers into national symbols. When the frontier closed, Americans needed new heroes to embody our cherished values. The cowboy, that hard-working, uncompromising figure, became something larger than life, precisely when industrial America needed reminding of its rugged origins. This myth-making reveals our yearning for simplicity and honor amid rapid change. Through Wild West shows and films, we crafted our national identity, elevating everyday struggles into something mythic. Their resilience continues inspiring us to appreciate authentic history beyond Hollywood's romanticized version.